Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome back to my channel, and today I just wanted to share that I finished my animal safari pad. This is what is left. This was my 12 by 12 pad project that I started working on in May. Managed to finish up here at the beginning of June and just not getting a chance to share it. So I'm going to kind of briefly show the projects that you guys have already seen and then kind of focus on some of the projects that you may have not seen yet. So I've already showed you the 12 by 12 pages that I made using some of the paper and then a lot of the cut aparts from this pad. I managed to make 8 12 by 12 pages, so that was good. And then you guys also saw the alphabet flip books that I had made, and I made 2 of these. I've already sent one out to someone, so hopefully there are some little boys that are enjoying it right now. But I did get 2 of these, and this used up a big chunk of the paper and then a lot of the cut aparts. So what you haven't seen are the cards that I've made and then 2 other projects. But I ended up getting 35 cards, and I did use sketches for a lot of them just because, again, it helps me work through the paper a little quicker. And I really only had maybe 1 full sheet and then some big, like almost full sheets. But again, it went really far. But this is Operation Right Home sketch number 82. And I will link all the sketches that I used in the description box below. But on this one, I just used 2 of the cut aparts. This was just an image cut apart of the big, like, jungle leaves. And then this one that says any day spent with you is my favorite day. And then this was another little embellishment cut apart. I think it was a square, and I just fussy cut the butterfly out of it. Excuse me. And then added some black Nuvo drops on the corner. So I got 2 of those. This is my favorite thing, sketch number 352. And on these, this was a cut apart, this little train. And I wasn't really sure how else to use it. And then this was part of another cut apart as well that I think had a parrot or a macaw on it. And I had fussy cut out the bird for something else, and so I had the let's go left. So I thought, well, you might go with train. So I just used some of the pattern scraps that I had left here. This one I matted on black cardstock. This one's matted on white because the white went better with the navy background on that one. So I got 2 different versions of those. These, I was just trying to use some of the 4x4 cut apart. So I didn't use a sketch, but it's kind of based loosely on a sketch that I've used before. So here's my 4x4 cut apart, and I think I may have trimmed it down just a wee bit because I think this scrap piece behind it is 4 inches tall. So I just layered it and made sure I could get an elephant kind of on this side, and then added some white vinyl circles at the top and bottom. So these 2 are the same. This one was another 4x4 cut apart, and then just used this. It's a navy background with the lion, tiger, and cheetah on it. And then this I cut out of another cut apart that I hadn't used yet. It was just all words. And so I just cut, I think it was like Going Wild or something, and so I just cut the wild out of it and used that. So I got 2 of those. This is my favorite thing, sketch number 170. Really simple. I found some mustard yellow cardstock in my stash, and it worked really well with the yellow and the animals. And so just stamped Be Awesome on some scrap white cardstock, and then used like a deckled edged decorative scissors to cut the edge here. And this one had 2 going off to the left, and I just used 1 going off to the right. And then just for a little bit added interest, I did add some brown vinyl circles kind of at the top left up here. So 2 of those. This is Freshly Made Sketches number 179. And this one, I used some of the scraps of that mustard yellow paper that I just used, and then there's that navy with the cats, big cats on it. Backed everything on white, and then added my Be Awesome sentiment, and then some white vinyl circles, just to, because there was a lot of darkness on this card, so the white kind of lightened it up a little bit. This one, I don't think I used a sketch. At this point I was just working with some of the bigger pieces I had left. So I fussy cut this bird out of some scraps of this paper, used a happy birthday sentiment, and then added the bird, and then just kind of used some green cardstock. This one, similar layout, I just fishtailed the ends because this strip didn't go all the way across like the green did, and so I just fishtailed that black cardstock piece, and then this time I used a You're Awesome sentiment. This is another bird that I fussy cut out of the bird paper, and this is 2 scraps. So there's the butterfly and then the birds, and I just covered the seam with some green cardstock and then added my sentiment here and then that bird that I fussy cut out. This one, I think this might be 2 different pieces. I don't remember if it was 2 different pieces that I kind of pieced together or if it was, I think it was, because I think this is level right here. So I think this must have been 2 pieces, and then I added this brown cardstock strip like right where this bottom piece ended. And then this was a lion that I had pre-stamped in my stash, and so I colored it up with some colored pencils because I don't have Copics that the colors that worked well for this pad. Not that these match perfectly, but so I colored it up with colored pencils and then fussy cut it out and then added it to a white stitched circle die cut. And then have my sentiment. So this one has 3 different scrap pieces on it that I just kind of pieced together and then added a You're Awesome sentiment on it. Some of these cards I think would be great for cards for hospitalized kids, like the, You're Awesome type sentiments, or maybe just saying hello. And then some of the other ones will probably go to cards for soldiers. Here's one where I just used a couple of different scraps of pattern papers that I had, and then some scraps of green cardstock. So you could see, like this, the green cardstock piece, I probably should have cut the bird paper down, but I was just trying to make it work. And so it's like the green cardstock mat is barely big enough. But then I just took a little 1/4 inch circle punch and punched some green pieces out, circle pieces out of what I had left of the green cardstock, and then backed it on some pink cardstock. Oh, the one you always see, Operation Right Home sketch number 154. This was towards the end, and I did a whole bunch of these, just cutting some squares out of some of the pieces that were left. And then I think this one I printed for my silhouette, this Happy Birthday. And Echo Park had a silhouette file sale, or had a sale on the Silhouette America design site. And so I was able to purchase some images that were from this collection. And I tried to pick images that I could use for anything, not just for this collection, so that they weren't so specific that I would never use them again. So this is one of them. I figured a blue butterfly I could use for a lot of different stuff. So, and by this point I was out of cut aparts, and so was looking for some like embellishments. So I printed this out and then just cut it with a circle punch. And then this Happy Birthday sentiment is from my silhouette as well. Same thing, this yellow butterfly I printed for my silhouette, and it was one that I got in the Echo Park file sale. And again, like this butterfly I could use for anything, not just for this particular collection. This one had an elephant that I cut this out of some scrap vinyl. It's been in my stash for a while, and I thought this would be the perfect one to use it because there are pieces of elephants on some of the scraps that I use. And I only had 3 full scraps. I think these are like 1.5 inch squares. I only had 3 full squares. And so I just took some cardstock scraps that I had left that I could cut into 1.5 inch, and then used a smaller or a thinner scrap just to add something to that square. This one used the birds and just used a couple of flower punches that were in my stash, and was trying to mimic some of the flowers that were in some of the other patterns. And then happy birthday to you. I think that was a printed sentiment from my silhouette at some point. Oops. This is all from the cover of the pad. So on the cover, it had like all these little kind of squares, not perfect squares, but squares of the images, like one square for each patterned paper that I had. So I took 4 of them and just tried to cut them to similar size. I didn't get exact, but then they're not 1.5 inch squares like these, because I don't think I didn't trim them down vertically. I think I just was trimming them horizontally. So anyway, I just went ahead and glued them on some white cardstock and then trimmed the cardstock down around. And then this was also on the cover, and so I just used that as my center. Added a happy birthday. This is a stamp I have on a fishtail banner, and then just threw in some yellow enamel dots just to kind of brighten it up a little bit. So this one's mainly from the pad cover. This is Operation Right Home. It just says bonus sketch. And I did this one when I was trying to use up some of the 3x4 cut aparts I have. So this one's very simple, just has the bear and Stay Wild with this scrap behind it. And then I used a lot of, I think it's vintage black Nouveau drops that I used just to add a little bit of extra dimension. And I was trying to get a bear in the background, and so that's why this one is on the right side, because there was a bear here. This one I put on the left side because you could see the body of the bear there. Not sure it matters. It was just an OCD thing that I had. Operation Right Home, sketch number 44. This one was another 3x4 cut apart. See you later, alligator. And so I had strips of these like jungle leaves, so I just put that behind it, and then used green cardstock, and then some more of those vintage black Nouveau drops. Got 2 of those. This, out of all the monkeys in the zoo, I'd choose you cut apart. I had left and wasn't really sure how I wanted to use it. So I did one similar to this sketch. Even use the same paper, and I put it to the left so you can kind of see the monkey, so it kind of tied in together. And then just added some of the vintage black Nouveau drops at the bottom there. And then on this one, I didn't have any vertical scraps left, but I had a horizontal one. So I just put the horizontal one in the background, and then felt like it needed another pop of color, and so I just had this scrap of, like, it was a strip of green cardstock, and so I just took it and rounded the corners of it and added it there on the side of the journal card or the cut apart, and then there's some more of those Nouveau drops. So here I have a stamp set in my stash, and I don't know who it's by because I think I lost, or the packaging tore a long time ago, but it's got just a whole bunch of monkeys, and there are some giraffes and some other animals on there. And so I just stamped the monkeys out and then colored them up with colored pencils, and just used, like, this one has the jungle paper at the top and then green cardstock at the bottom, and I covered the seam with this monkeying around sentiment that it was part of another cut apart that had a bunch of words. And then down here I took some leaves that I fussy cut and then layered up some flower punches that I had in my stash. This one, I have the cardstock at the top and the pattern paper at the bottom, and the monkeys that I colored up again, and then I added some gray vinyl circles here at the bottom, and just to kind of add a little bit more interest down here to the bottom part of it. This one, very simple. I had some bigger pieces of this bird paper left, so I just cut it down and have it on a black mat. took my You're Awesome sentiment, backed it on black, cut it into fishtails, and then added some more of those vintage black Nouveau drops at the top. This one is the same thing, but I decided to round the edges on these, and this was Going Wild. I cut it out of another cut apart with just words, and then some more of the vintage black Nouveau drops. And then these cards are like 4.5 by 6.5, I think. I had this cut apart Wild Thing, I Think I Love You. And so I didn't use it on any of my scrapbooks, so I decided to go ahead and make a card with it. And this parrot or macaw, not sure which one it is, I fussy cut out of another 3x4 cut apart and just added it on here just to give the front a little bit more of an embellishment. And then on the inside, I did, because I used green cardstock, I did add some white cardstock, and then this is cut out of another cut apart. I just used the Wild. So I got 2 of those. And then on the insides of these, I do have my normal scraps. So that's 35 cards. And then I did a couple of 3x5 Post-it notepads, and so just use some of the butterfly paper that I had left, and then I even took a scrap and put it here on the inside. But this is just that Dollar Tree lined Post-it notepad. Used pink cardstock to create a belly band, and then this Adventure is a 3x4 cut apart. Goodness, this belly band is just big enough. So this was a 3x4 cut apart, and so I did use some Wink of Stella on the letters. I think I did a little bit on all of the letters just to add a little bit of interest to the front, but I did 2 of those. And then from the rest of the pad cover that I had that had like strips, actually I think the card that I made with these was from the back of the pad. The back of the pad had little square samples. The front of the pad had stripes. And so I took what I could out of the front of the pad and then just made some bookmarks. And I didn't add, it's fairly, it's the pad cover, so it's not really strong chipboard, but it's pretty sturdy. And then just took some Live, Love, Read, and then Read More Book sentiments that I already had printed for my silhouette and in my stash. And then this is just some yarn that I had in my stash, tied them off. So these will go to Cards for Soldiers. So after all of that, I did have some scraps left. Some of them are strips from the pad cover, some of them are paper, and then some of them are some cut aparts. But I went ahead and saved it because I do have some animal print paper that I have kind of in one of my work in progress boxes that I was working on making some cards with, using some animal stamps that I have too. And so I figured this might coordinate with those. And then I also have the Jungle Safari ephemera pack from Echo Park. So I figure between these and the ephemera, then I can use that with the animal print paper that I have and make some fun cards. And I think I had started making them with the intention of sending them to Cards for Hospitalized Kids. So from the pad of 24 sheets, I got the 4 bookmarks, 2 Post-it pads, 35 cards, 2 of the alphabet flip books, and then 8 scrapbook pages. So pretty good. And this was definitely not my normal style of paper at all. Probably wouldn't have been something that I bought on my own, but it did come in an Echo Warehouse box, and I know there's a bunch of you that have gotten this one as well. So hopefully you guys got some ideas on how to use up this paper. If you have already used this pad and made something different, please leave that in the comments below so that people can get some additional ideas. But thank you guys so much for your time on this video today. Again, hopefully you got some ideas and inspiration and can use up some of the pads like this that you get in your Echo Park warehouse boxes. I will link the card sketches that I use in the description box below, but if you guys have any questions on anything, let me know. Thanks again for your time, and I hope you're having a crafty day.